Welcome everyone to our Tourism Nova Scotia Digiport Digital Nova Scotia webinar series. Today we have how to deal with negative feedback on social media. I'm really excited about this presentation. It's going to provide so much value to businesses that have to deal with all that happens and comes with being on social media. For those of you who are not familiar with Tourism Nova Scotia, we are a division of communities, culture, tourism, and heritage. We work with communities and industry to attract visitors to the province and increase tourism revenues through experience and sector development, business coaching, marketing, and visitor servicing. My name is Nick Fry, and I'm the Manager of Business Development with Tourism Nova Scotia. And I'm so happy you could join us today. So let's just jump right into it. So a little bit of housekeeping. I would really encourage you to post any questions and answers in the Q&A at the bottom there. Don't put it in the chat if you can. And any good discussion will be so much more robust with great questions. So we'll do our best to answer them. And if you put them in. Also, if you think of a great question later on today or tomorrow, just send us a quick email and we'll make sure we get you an answer. If anytime throughout Ingrid from WordCraft mentions anything like any websites or software that's relevant, we'll send you that out in an email after the fact. So you don't need to write it down. You don't need to worry about that. Also, we are scheduled to go until 11. And if we go past 11, that's fine. If you have to go somewhere or you have to go to another meeting or appointment, that's okay too, because we will send you a recording of the webinar for anything you missed, or anything you may want to refer back to. All of our webinars are also posted on our website and Digiport, so you can check that out. The address is on the screen now. And again, thank you so much for joining us. This webinar is offered in partnership with Digiport, and Digiport is a one-stop shop of interactive services and educational opportunities, programming for the tourism industry to help bridge the digital gap. So there's learnings, there's courses, there's everything you need on any subject you require. If you think you're looking at it and you think it's missing something, let us know and we'll try to make sure it's updated. Of course, our partner in Digiport is Digital Nova Scotia. They are the industry association for the IT sector for the province. They work with small businesses, medium-sized government organizations, and they're such a great partner. We're so happy that we could launch Digiport with them and this webinar series and all of our other programming. And once again, thank you to Digital Nova Scotia. Now, today we have Ingrid Deon from WordCraft, and Ingrid has joined us on a few other webinars, and so happy to have her back with that knowledge. Ingrid, when she first started doing webinars, she had a team of 1, and since that, they've grown to 5. So congratulations, Ingrid, on that growth in your business. So Ingrid began her career as a journalist and caught the social media bug, and has really specialized in that. Ingrid started her own company in 2019, working with businesses such as Nestle Canada, Kraft, Manulife, and many small businesses throughout North America. So Ingrid has that perspective from big corporations down to the small businesses that often we all work with across the province. WordCraft specializes in organic social media strategy, content creation, community management, and social media reporting. And Ingrid was telling me today that she is a specialist in CPG, and she then told me what CPG was, and that is consumer packaged goods. So Ingrid has a wealth of knowledge, and so happy to have her share that with us today. And I invite Ingrid to take over the screen, and looking forward to the presentation.
Thank you so much. All right, now we're all set up. So welcome to everyone. Thanks to Tourism Nova Scotia and Digiport for having me, and thanks to everyone for attending. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and I want to acknowledge them as the past, present, and future caretakers of this land. So we're here to talk about one of my favorite topics. Over the past 6 years, I've managed social media accounts for some pretty big companies, KitKat, Delicio, Gerber, Manulife Bank, Farmers Dairy, and most recently Kraft Dinner and Heinz Tomato Ketchup. But none of them really tested my customer service skills or my skills for dealing with dissatisfied customers or negative feedback, quite like a certain cannabis company that I worked with before, during, and after legalization. When we took over their social media accounts, it was a bit of a cesspool. The founder of the company had been answering all of the comments and messages, and he was taking all of the negative feedback personally. Me and my team, we managed to turn things around by listening to customers, empathizing with them, and offering them solutions. So it became really a place where people would talk about how bad the customer service was and how much of a disaster their social media was, to a place where people came for really excellent customer service and really great engagement. And because of that experience, I've developed a bit of a passion and a gift for dealing with complaints and dissatisfied customers on social media. And no matter which platform you're using, you can do the same. You can turn your business's account into a place where people come for exceptional customer service, where they come for really meaningful engagement. This will not only keep your customers happy and engaged, but will also increase your chances for future sales. And no matter how frustrating, difficult customers can be, with the right social media response strategy, you can convert those angry, ranting and raving customers into some loyal fans. So I am going to go through 8 tips, and I hope it's helpful to everyone. And as Nick mentioned, if you have any questions, just put them in the Q&A. Nick, you can stop me at any point if there's a pressing question, if there's something that needs to be answered right away. If not, I can take questions at the end. So the first tip is to monitor the conversation. If you don't know who's saying what, you're really going to struggle to respond to those difficult customers who are perhaps littering the internet with poor reviews of your product or service. So as it says on the slide, you can't reply to comments and messages that you can't see. You've got to be looking at the comments and messages that come in on a daily basis. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be on it constantly. However, check in once a day for sure. If you can do more than that, that's great. But you have to be able to see what's going on in the comments and in the DMs or the messages on your social media to be able to respond to those complaints. And you can also, not just looking at the comments and messages that come onto your platforms, your social media page, your Facebook page, your Instagram profile, your LinkedIn company page, your Twitter account, your TikTok account, whatever it is. You can also search for mentions of your company on Twitter. They might not at you, they might just talk about you. So you can get in the habit. There are different tools that you can use that are called social listening tools. And you can put in keywords and it will tell you when there's like a mention of your company on Twitter or on different forums, online forums or Reddit. You can also look at sites like Yelp and TripAdvisor and Google My Business to see if people are saying negative things. And the reason that we want to monitor it closely is because you really want to nip it in the bud before it gets out of hand. We've seen quite a few times, you've probably read news articles about cases where, suddenly one person complains and it becomes a complaint snowball where other people jump in. Maybe they weren't thinking about complaining, but when they see the complaint, they're like, yeah, I had a bad experience there too. Or maybe they didn't even have a bad experience, but they just want to jump on the bandwagon. So it's really important to monitor the conversation and then nip it in the bud before it turns into a complaint snowball. And, like I was saying with the complaint snowball, act quickly. So the longer you wait, the angrier people might get. So the longer a negative comment goes unaddressed, the more opportunity it has to damage your online reputation. So you want to strike a balance between taking your time to craft a really good response, but also post a quick response that addresses the issue. So if you don't have an answer to the complaint right at that moment, you might want to post a holding message. So I've got an example here. We're sorry to hear about this, whatever the person's name is. We're looking into it now and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for your patience. We'll be in touch soon. So that, maybe I don't have the answer to the complaint right this second. Maybe I have to ask a staff person about, what happened on this certain occasion. Maybe you're monitoring social media accounts for another business. Like maybe you're someone like me who is in charge of social media accounts for other people, and maybe you have to check with the business before you resolve the complaint. So this way, it shows that the customer that they're important, that their complaint is being heard, and that you're working on it, even if you don't have an answer right away. So yeah, a quick response just shows that they're being appreciated, they're being heard. And then once you do get the appropriate response or whatever is going to resolve the complaint, or you get the go ahead to offer a voucher, a gift certificate, refund, or just, maybe people just want you to enact some kind of change, before you have the go ahead to do that, you can post a holding response like this. Just remember that you need those customers to survive. So you really want to treat them well and show them how much you value their business. So tip number 2, post the facts. So sometimes I've seen dissatisfied customers who they're posting blatantly incorrect information. So maybe their complaint is that, they purchased such and such, they purchased lemonade from your lemonade stand, but your lemonade stand is actually a chocolate chip cookie stand and you don't sell lemonade. So their complaint is, they didn't actually get bad lemonade from you because you only sell cookies. So if they're posting blatantly incorrect information in their complaint, correct them kindly and post and point them towards the source of truth. So if you're a cookie stand, then you can show them posts, direct them to your website and say, we only sell cookies. Unfortunately, we don't sell lemonade, but we're sorry about your experience. But do it in a kind and empathetic way, not in a, well, actually kind of way. There's nothing that's more annoying than that when when people say, well, actually, we sell cookies. It's more of a, we're so sorry that you had a bad lemonade. Unfortunately, we don't think that you purchased it at our stand because we only sell cookies. You can check out our line of products on our website. You can use your website, different news articles. Some clients that I've worked with, they're able to point people towards scientific papers. So if there have been scientific studies, if someone's making a claim saying that, they took your supplement so that it would cure their eczema and it didn't, and then you say, well, actually, you say our product is approved to treat, I don't know what it is, something else, another ailment, not eczema, and then maybe you point them towards a scientific paper that where there was a trial on your product or something like that. You can point them towards testimonials, any kind of source of truth that will give them the factual information. And again, do this in a kind and empathetic way. I've just got an example here from one of my clients. This was from a couple of years ago. It was someone who sent a tweet and they said, when will Manulife Bank offer more than 0.9% in their so-called high interest savings account? People who understand money aren't stupid. 2% minimum to beat inflation or it's worthless. The fintech race is on. If you want to win, you have to provide sufficient value. And then, so I replied with, well, since you asked, with the winky face, and a link to the high interest savings account where the interest rate was actually 2%. And they said, this is what I love to see, keep the rate above 2% and you'll attract many more people to your bank, etc. So this was pointing, they're complaining, they're making a complaint, but they don't have the accurate information. And so we pointed them towards the source of truth, which was the website, which outlined that the interest rate was actually 2%, and turned them around. So they went from an upset customer, a dissatisfied customer who is not happy with the interest rate, to a customer who is really happy with the new interest rate. So that's always fun when that happens, because you can really turn it around. Okay, tip number 4 is move the conversation to private. And this, again, I think I'm going to harken back to the complaint snowball many times, because it is really, it's a valuable way of showing how complaints can get out of hand. And we've all seen snowballs. Most of us are probably in Nova Scotia, so we know about snowballs getting bigger. But if you move it to a private space instead of having the conversation in your public comments, you can eliminate that pile of people, throwing complaints into the pile or into the complaint snowball. This is especially true on Twitter. Twitter is, any social media manager will know that Twitter is probably where the bulk of the complaints happen. Facebook would be another place where a lot of complaints tend to happen. And on Twitter, if a company posts a response to the complaint, everyone who follows that company might see the complaint and the response to the complaint. So instead of just seeing, like complaint and then another answer, another complaint, another complaint, and another complaint, people in their feed on Twitter, they will see that the company has responded to the complaint, and this can often mitigate things and keep the complaint snowball from happening. It sort of stops it in its tracks, because people see, oh yeah, the company is responding to complaints. We're not going to keep piling more complaints onto it. But it becomes a bit of a sport where people just like to keep piling complaints on if there is no response. An analysis of Twitter complaints of hundreds of firms from 2014 to 2018 found that when there's a lot of public back and forth, it increases the visibility of complaints and therefore can reduce the perceived quality of a brand. It can also encourage others to complain as well, creating a snowball, spiral, pile, whatever you want to call it. A single public response is really a better way to go. So my tip is to post a response that says, we're so sorry to hear about this. Please send us a private message so we can gather some more information. Hope to hear from you soon. So that sort of stops the complaint in its tracks publicly, and then you can resolve it in private. And that way you're not going back and forth and trying to gather more information about the complaint in the public sphere. You're moving it to private and you're resolving it there. This works beautifully. I do it all the time. And people, most of the time, if their complaint is legit, they will then send a private message. I have done this with people who I would call trolls. I sincerely hope that none of you have trolls, but trolls are essentially people who are complaining just for the sake of complaining. They don't actually have a legitimate complaint, or maybe they had a legitimate complaint at one point, but it was possibly like 5 years ago and they've just never given up on it. And they will go out of their way to put a negative comment on any post that they see from your company. I saw it a lot with a lot of the bigger brands that I worked with. However, I have never seen it with any of the small businesses that I've worked with, which is really quite heartening to see that people are so respectful of small businesses on the as a rule, in general. People are more likely to do these kind of troll type behavior with large corporations. But sometimes often I won't engage with trolls, but sometimes I will reply to a troll and say, you know, we're sorry to hear about your experience. If there's anything we can do to help, send us a private message. 9 out of 10 times, 9.9 out of 10 times, they will never send you a private message because they just want to post like comments publicly, and they really don't want their issue resolved. They just want to keep posting their public comments. So, you know, that tends to happen. And I have some more things to say about trolls just in a few minutes. So right here, hide, don't delete. So if you do have a troll, and I hope you don't, but if you do, you can hide their comments on Facebook. This hide function doesn't exist on other social media platforms, unfortunately, but it does exist on Facebook, where you can hide a comment, and then the commenter can still see it. So when they go back to the scene of the crime to see if you deleted their comment, they can still see their comment. However, the other customers can't see it. So it essentially doesn't exist for other customers. This is great because the commenter or the troll does not know that you've hidden their comments. They don't know that no one can see it, but you know, and then no one else can see it, which is really nice. It's a great function, and I wish every single social media platform had that function. Yeah, so I often recommend having a code of conduct that outlines what you will tolerate and what you won't tolerate on social media. And you can post this on your website. This is sort of, I call it like a little insurance policy. So usually it outlines, you know, we don't tolerate foul language. We don't tolerate bullying. We don't tolerate hate speech. We don't tolerate, I don't know, various, whatever you can think of that you don't want in your social media comments. And then when someone posts something that has, you know, whatever bad words or is bullying someone else, you can respond to them and say, look, we have a code of conduct for our Instagram page, for our Twitter account, for our Facebook page, whatever it is. And we don't tolerate this kind of behavior. If you continue, we will consider blocking you. This gives people a chance to maybe turn things around or maybe just shush. And instead of just automatically blocking someone or banning someone, which usually will infuriate them, and they might come back on another platform, or they might target you through email, or they might target you in person. If you give people a chance and tell them you have a code of conduct, we don't tolerate this, we will consider blocking you if you keep it up. It's a little bit of a gentler way of dealing with people who are being trolls or are posting, you know, foul language, hate speech, whatever it is. And I would also hide their comment after you reply to it, so that other people can't see it. So I hope that's sort of, it's a really quick overview of how to deal with some of those trolls. I mentioned that on Facebook you can hide. On other platforms, you will have to delete anything that is exceptionally egregious. If it's really offensive, then I would recommend deleting it. On Twitter, you can't delete other people's tweets, so you have to report them. So if something's really awful, I've reported things. Sometimes people will post personal information, especially sometimes a complainant will, they'll have like an email conversation with a staff member or something, and they'll post a screenshot from it, and it shows all of that staff person's, you know, their phone number and their email address and their full name. So those types of things. Run any of these situations. Next tip is to be empathetic. I think I mentioned this with just
Ingrid, can you hear me okay?
hey, I think I'm back.
Your screen was cut. Yeah, you were cutting out on
Oh no.
us.
Um,
Sometimes if you cut your video, it might help.
okay. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen again. I'm very sorry about that. Yes, so I was talking about being empathetic, not taking complaints personally and attacking people back. So and not only attacking people back, but also, sometimes your responses can be robotic, especially if you have like a response matrix or an FAQ document or something where you have, if someone complains about this, this is the response that we give. That can feel very robotic. So I recommend tailoring your response to the complaint. The only thing worse than ignoring a customer complaint or a difficult customer on social media is responding to their concerns with like a copy and pasted corporate response or something like that. So acknowledge the complaint. Often people only want to be heard, and put yourself in the customer's shoes. So how would you want to be treated if, whatever they're saying happened to you? Show empathy and write in a friendly tone, and no matter how annoyed or frustrated you're feeling, do so in a friendly tone, even if you feel like someone's complaining about your baby, because your business is your baby. So you might also want to sign your name at the end of your response. This can help humanize your response, humanize your company. So, hi, Bob. So I usually start with the person's name who's complaining. Hi, Bob. This is Ingrid from the llama farm. I'm sorry to hear that, Lily the llama bit your son, or whatever it is. So by telling them that you are Ingrid from the llama farm, it really helps to put a human face to it. And this also not only helps when you're trying to humanize your brand, it also helps the customer see, sometimes they'll reel back because they'll be like, oh, I'm not complaining to just some like faceless corporation or some faceless, hotel, restaurant, whatever it is. A person is hearing me and they're acknowledging me. So it sort of helps reel back some of the anger that maybe the difficult customer has. So I have an example. This is a poor example. It's not one that comes from any of my clients, but it's just an example of when you don't show any empathy and you respond to every complaint with sort of the same canned response. So all of these responses are, we'd be happy to review your account with you to discuss any concerns. Please let us know if you need any assistance. And you can see that when you look at their Twitter, all of their responses are exactly the same, which doesn't really make a person feel heard. It just sort of, it's really honing in on that faceless corporation kind of feeling, because there's none of this is tailored directly to the complaint. It's just, here's a copy and paste response. So if you do have a frequently asked question document or a list or something that you use, which I think is a great thing, because it gives you a place to start. Just make sure you're sort of editing each response to be tailored exactly to that complaint. All right, and here's another one. Actually apologize. So this is the next tip. Sometimes I'll see people respond with, we're sorry, but that's not really a sorry. That's just making an excuse. So you really want to empathize. We're so sorry to hear that. We're sorry if you feel that way. No, sorry, don't say we're sorry you feel that way. We're so sorry to hear that. We can completely understand how frustrating this might be, or something like that, where you're actually putting yourself in their shoes and really empathizing with them. Rather than being dismissive, which is sort of what the we're sorry, but, or we're sorry you feel that way does. So you really want to show them that you're actually sorry if, something happened, if they, found some foreign material in their food, or if they were treated poorly by one of your staff members or something. You really want to apologize. It goes a long way, even if you think that maybe their complaint isn't completely legit. Just showing some empathy goes a whole long way. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's just a simple, straightforward apology. It just shows that you care. And people appreciate that, because often people just want to be heard. So here's an example of, being empathetic, apologizing, even if you don't think that there's actually anything wrong with the product or the service that you have offered. So this was with Farmers Dairy, who I used to work with. They've asked, have you changed the recipe in the last few months of your 2080, which is a butter margarine product? It's my favorite and has been for years, but for the last few months, it definitely tastes different, and the difference is not an improvement. So we responded with, good question, Jackie. Are you referring to the blocks or the tubs? Because the 2080 product comes in like those butter blocks, and it also comes in the tubs. So the tubs haven't changed, but the blocks changed to a non-hydrogenated base last fall. This was a change that was mandated by regulations to remove hydrogenated oils from the market. We hope you have a great day. So she says, no, it's not the blocks, it's the tubs that I'm talking about. The taste has definitely changed, so much so that I'm going to stop buying it. So there actually has not been a change to the tubs, but she is saying that she has seen a change. And that's a valid complaint, even if there hasn't been a change to the product. So we replied with, we're so sorry to hear that, Jackie. We haven't made any changes to the tubs, but if you think you had a bad batch, please don't hesitate to call our consumer response team at etc. And this was a client where typically I would recommend that the response would be, if you think you had a bad batch, send us a private message so we can gather some more information. Because usually when people complain on a certain platform, like if they've complained on social media, they want it resolved on social media. If they've complained on the phone, they want it resolved on the phone. If they've complained by email, they want it resolved by email. If they've complained in person, they want it resolved in person. There are some studies that show that a lot of complainants will drop off if you ask them to use another channel to complain through. So we had recommended to Farmers Dairy that we would like to be able to resolve complaints through social media by asking people to send a private message. However, the client was not amenable to that, so we still had to send complaints to the call center. And I'm sure a lot of complaints dropped off because, if I complain on social media, I really want it resolved there. I don't necessarily want to call in. So just another little tip. Try to resolve your complaint wherever the person comes, whichever channel the person comes to you through. All right, this tip is a continuation of the last. Don't take it personally. It's easy, like I said, for customers to scream at anonymous companies, but when you throw the human element in, then it's difficult for the customer to because they realize that they're not talking to some faceless corporation. They're really screaming at a human being. So don't get too emotional. You're not looking to win an argument. See the complainant as an actual person They're not just another troll. They're an actual person. And by complaining, they're actually helping you build a bit of better business by pointing out how you can improve. So never take it personally. Don't start an argument. Don't try to be right. Just try to empathize and make it right. Figure out a way to resolve the complaint. Here is a wonderful example of how not to respond to a complaint. And this is when you do take it personally. This was a restaurant in Boston. And this was a post that they created on Facebook. They said, "It's hard to believe that in this day and age, there are still uneducated, unintelligent, unpolished human beings out there that still go out to eat, but there are, and this woman proves my point." So this was a response to a complaint. If anyone has ever had a problem at any restaurant, food or service, you complain or bring it to their attention at the restaurant, not on someone's Facebook page. This is an ignorant and disrespectful way of carrying oneself when in a public restaurant, or I should say out of one, and just shows this person's inexperience to dining and behaving in general. Furthermore, I hope all Pigalle fans know how much we strive in keeping our customer base happy before they leave the restaurant. Dear postwoman, we fed 100 customers on Thanksgiving, 98 left happy. So this is not how to respond to a complaint. This is when you take it personally and you attack the person back. Don't do this. Don't do this. Even if you think that they're wrong, still empathize with them and figure out how you can make it right instead of trying to poke them and, get into an argument. It's not cool. Even if you think they're wrong, it's still not cool. So, and it's funny that this person says that, people, you complain or bring it to me in person, not on Facebook, which is so funny because so many people complain on social media rather than in person. And I know a lot of us would rather that, the people come to us in person to complain, but we just have to realize that the world has changed and people complain on social media. And so we have to mitigate it there. So yeah, please don't take it personally and don't attack people back. Not a good look. All right, and I believe this is the final tip. This is make it right. So find out how people want to resolve the issue. Find out what they want. Do they just want to be heard? Do they want an apology? Do they want a coupon? Do they want a refund? Or do they want like a full policy change? Maybe their complaint is that maybe you have washrooms that are for men and women instead of just washrooms that are for anyone. And maybe all you need to do to resolve the complaint is just to make a policy change where you take the men sign off and the women sign off and just make your washrooms for everyone. So that's just an example of how you can make things right. It's not always about giving people a refund. Like I said, sometimes sometimes it's just enough to apologize and just say, "I'm so sorry that happened." And that's sometimes all it requires. If you can offer a refund or deal with the complaint on a deeper level, then you'll be able to win over your customers in no time. And so I have another little example, and this is from one of my clients. So a little known fact, or maybe everyone knows this, I don't know, but Kit Kats, when people often, every day, people find waferless Kit Kats. So there are Kit Kats that are just solid chocolate. Some of you may have found one before, but it has to do with the way that they're manufactured. Sometimes the wafer loader runs out of wafers and a few solid Kit Kats get made. So we would get complaints about waferless Kit Kats all the time. So I bought this yesterday. I'm a really big fan of Kit Kats since when I was really young. This time really surprised that my Kit Kat was nothing but just chocolate. I don't know what happened and how, but I do not think this is normal. I can send you a photo if you need. So our response was, oh no, what's a Kit Kat without the wafer? You can, if you still have the packaging handy, please send us an email so we can make it up to you. So that is, this one's on a ratings and review site, so it's not really on social media. However, I did manage ratings and reviews for some companies, actually still do. So often on ratings and reviews site, like maybe it's on TripAdvisor or it's on Yelp, where you don't have a private message function. You often have to ask people to email you or call you. This was a case where we had to ask them to email. So if it was on social media, I would have asked them to send us a private message. And from there, you just gather whatever information you need and, you know, their mailing address, so you can send them a coupon. So that's how those were dealt with. It's really easy. Often I would recommend not offering the coupon or the refund in the public comments. Just take it to private. Like I said earlier, ask people to send you a private message so you can deal with it in private, because that would, you know, you don't want people sharing their personal information in the public comments. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening through. This is my contact information. If you have any questions that I don't answer here, I'm going to answer questions in just a sec. If you think of a question later, you can always send me an email or send me a private message on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And you can also, since this is a webinar through Digiport, you can book one-on-one sessions that are completely free to you with me through Digiport. So I definitely encourage you to do that if you want to chat some more.
So that was very, very excellent and relevant information. A lot of really good practical tips. I would encourage anyone to ask any questions. We had one question from the start. So Barb, I don't think we covered it, but one problem they've experienced is when different people share their posts, they can't really monitor other people's pages. So we are only lucky to see some negative comments and try to answer them. Hit and miss with that.
Yeah, that is hard because especially like on Facebook or something, if someone shares one of your posts and they, you know, they add a bit of text to it, and it's a complaint, you as a business page can't comment on that personal post. So it makes it really difficult to mitigate that. And I've seen that happen with some of my clients before. The only workaround to answering those complaints that are on personal pages is to comment as your personal account. So if you have a Facebook account under your name, you can then respond. But again, the visibility is difficult. So you can't necessarily always see those. You don't see them in your inbox on Facebook. You don't see them in the comments. You don't see them in your messages. So it's really, you know, maybe someone alerts you and says, oh, I saw this really negative comment on someone's personal Facebook page about your business. It is hard to see those. And sometimes people have their privacy settings so that you can't even see that comment if you wanted to, because you're not their friend. So it does make it hard. One thing that you can do is use a social listening tool. And if you Google social listening, you will see all kinds of different tools that exist out there. And you can put in keywords that have to do with your business. So maybe it's your business name, or if you have like a branded product, maybe use that as well. So you put different keywords in and they will alert you when, like the robot will alert you when it sees those keywords come up. It's not perfect because again, it won't see if someone has shared one of your posts and they have their privacy settings so that only their friends can see it, then the robots aren't going to see it either. So kind of a non-answer in an answer, but it's very difficult to see those, and you're not alone in thinking that it's difficult to mitigate those types of complaints.
Another question we have is from someone that works in municipal government. They often get social media complaints that cover many areas. For example, if they post a survey for recreation or housing, we get comments about road conditions and seniors in long-term care, neither of which are wholly in our jurisdiction to solve. Any thoughts on how to handle these type of messages?
So those I would start with like an apology where, we're so sorry to hear about this. Or, we can understand why you would be frustrated about that, and then point them in the right direction of how they would get that resolved. So maybe it's, you can contact Department of Transportation, the provincial Department of Transportation for, for help, for more information, for help. So yeah, I would still apologize, even if it's not in your jurisdiction, still apologize. Like, people want to be heard. So offer an apology, even if you can't do anything to help it, and point them in the right direction of where they can get that resolved. Any others, Nick?
If there's any other questions, let's ask them now. So we'd always talked and encouraged people to, welcome positive reviews, and maybe that's a follow-up webinar. Because obviously, the more reviews you get, the better, and theoretically they'd be more positive as you add on more. I kind of think I recall some TripAdvisor research that shows that people are more likely to leave positive than negative reviews, and ratings tend to get higher with the more reviews you have. Obviously, if it's a really bad experience, you're super motivated to post, obviously.
Yeah.
But, is there any correlation there with like the number of reviews? And let me just tell one quick story. We used to have a travel specialist from Washington State come in and talk to us, and he always gave us this really interesting tip where, this is probably like 8 or 10 years ago. So, but you'd have a card for your hotel or accommodation or whatever restaurant, and on the back, it would, encourage them to leave a TripAdvisor review. And he'd have it in his hand and ask how their service was, or how their meal was, or how their stay was. And if it was really good, he'd say, "Oh, thank you so much. We'd really encourage you if you have the time. But if it was bad, keep it in his pocket." And then, of course, try to address it in person. Same idea, I guess, is just really encouraging those positive reviews.
Yeah. And another tip for, like, if you get, a positive review on Facebook or something, where you're able to respond, like, I think, on TripAdvisor, you're able to respond as well. But if you can keep the conversation going, and if someone just says, "This was a great hotel, I had a wonderful stay, we really enjoyed it," then follow up and say, "Thank you so much. What was your favorite part?" Or, "What did you really enjoy? We'd love to hear more about it," to try and get more quality review, like more feedback, more quality feedback. I do that all the time. People will leave a positive review, and I'll reply and ask them, what was your favorite part about your trip, or whatever. And you will get some really great information that way. And then you can use that information to, like, post on your website or create social media posts that show really lovely testimonials from people. You can share that content anywhere. So yeah, definitely good to foster.
Yeah, that's really good advice, because you can use the accolades, or you can use the specific wording to help sell your product. And I think that I don't have the numbers because I didn't study it before, but I recall that people are a lot more likely to trust their word of mouth rather than marketing, right? So everything you talked about today was so valuable, because it is the stuff that people will believe is what they read, positive or negative. But also, even with your farmers example, it's such a, like, if I read that, I would, in my head, I'd be like, okay, well, they dealt with it and it's all good, check mark, move on. Whereas if they didn't respond, it would be like kind of an unopened thing in your head where you're kind of questioning farmers or whatever the product. So it really kind of tied a bow on it. So
Yeah.
that was a great example. So unless there's any other questions, I would encourage anyone on the call to, if you have some follow-up, book a one-on-one with Ingrid, send her an email. You can always look at their company for many of their services. Thank you for your time today, Ingrid. And I'm just gonna take the screen back over.
Okay.
There we go. Start my video. I muted myself. So thank you, Ingrid, and hope to see you for another webinar soon.
Thank you. And thanks to everyone who joined.
Okay, so today's webinar was very valuable. Please share it with anyone that you think could benefit from it. It will be available at our webinar page, tourismns.ca/webinar-series, if you want to go back and review it. Our next webinar is Thursday, June 23rd. And that webinar is what search data can tell you about your brand. So that's presented by Peter Woodward with Shortstop. I'm really excited for that one. If you want to find out about any of our programs or any resources or anything, it all gets sent out through our Tourism Nova Scotia news and resources. It used to be called In Touch, but we've renamed it. Very valuable. So anytime people ask me, why didn't I hear about this, or I love that stuff, I wish I would have known. So sign up here and you will know. So thank you so much. Just if you ever need to get in contact with us, send us an email at tnsbusiness@novascotia.ca. Our corporate website is tourismns.ca. Our consumer website, our call to action and all of our marketing, where we send all our potential visitors, is novascotia.com. So make sure that you're on there and you have an up-to-date listing. Again, TNS News and Resources, we just chatted about that. If you want to find us on Twitter, we're TourismNS, and on LinkedIn, we're Tourism Nova Scotia. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.